Okay, time for game two. We're 1 for 1 currently. We are up to the fives. Gonna register a turbo, which I have learned are 75 big blinds deep in this site. So last game I started out min raising the button. I decided my opponent was at least somewhat passive, although he picked up his 3-betting later. But at the beginning, he struck me at least as somewhat passive, perhaps largely due to open folding the button a lot. But anyway, the fact that he was somewhat passive made me want to open my small blind for a larger amount, so as to play larger pots in position post flop, where I have the positional advantage. There's some danger making a bigger pre-flop raise, because pre-flop you're out of position, so your opponent can punish it. But if he's not doing that, if he waits still, if he just lets you get post-flop a lot where you're in position, then having a bigger pot built is to your advantage on average. Yeah, I don't know what the action is really like on this site. Let's see. Oh, this is all of them. So it looked like heads up sit and goes. Yeah, sorry, I'm actually used to this site. So let me see. Oh, so I have a max buy-in set. Or maybe I just uncheck that. Let's see. Okay, so oh wow, yeah, so there was actually people sitting and waiting at higher stakes. That bro for show. So the same guy at all these? No. Okay, well it looks like I'll have my pick of some regs if I win a few more in a row. But for now, having trouble getting action at the fives. I guess I'll pause the video and stop rambling. Alright, be back in a sec. Okay, took a little while, but I got a game. Poker Hitman 187. Open folds his first button. Oh, I get 3 bets. This is a pretty hand, and I'm gonna fold and try to get a little more feel for the guy before I call. Wouldn't hate the call. It's a pretty hand. I could raise here pre-flop. Can I save my current layout? I check raise, 2 overs, and a gut shot. I'm in a barrel. Not because I rep this ace that much, more because I think he could potentially be scared of it, and I think he has a lot of weak pairs in range. I don't give him, actually, so some people, I think that 5 would hit a lot. Barreling off early, I'm not gonna. Okay, so sometimes you might think that 5, since it connects with the board, you might think that hits a lot of stuff that he might get here with. However, after he limps and calls a couple of times or whatever, I don't think he has that many pair plus draw hands. I think he has more individual pairs than pair plus draws, if that makes sense. So I'm not actually scared of continuing on that 5 like I would be sometimes potentially, because I think it connects with this range, because I don't think it connects with this range as much as it might in some kind of similar spots. It actually does pretty well for me, because I don't have as many bluffs after that card hits. Right? It hits it pairs up a lot of my straight draws. Well, or it makes me straights. So I look a lot less bluffy on that card, and that's why I sort of started out by continuing to bet on that card. I would normally continue to bet on that card. However, I just felt like I don't know anything about this guy, and it's a $5 match, so he might not appreciate how that card interacts with my range. And he called twice, so everyone might call again. You know, people like to call down fairly light early, I feel like. They don't give you too much respect early on, probably rightly. So I decided to give up. He's threw at me a couple times now. Okay, unfortunately. So if he had threw at me like a normal size, I would have just jammed on him. As we are, it's a bit awkward. I mean, I don't really want to 4-bet exactly. And this is not a good flop, unfortunately. So yeah, so with that stack size there, I didn't really want to 4-bet and like have him flat and then play a flop with like a middle bottom pair. So I just called. Unfortunately, got a terrible flop, and he 4x's here. Such a pretty hand. Don't think I can call it 4x. Okay, so he seems somewhat erratic. So I'm definitely gonna lower my pre-flop raise size back down to min raise. I'm gonna consider limping some too. Basically, I don't foresee quite as much trouble building pots post-flop against him when I want to, so I don't think I need to raise pre-flop as much. And in addition to that, just the fact that he 3-bets a lot makes raising more pre-flop less profitable overall. So he had queen 7, so he min bet the flop with the middle pair. Continued when he half pot when he turned flush draw to go with, and then didn't bet the river, which is kind of weird. By weird I mean bad, but whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna continue here. I don't love it. Well, on the one hand, there's like a lot of good turn cards I can continue betting on, but it's also kind of makes a lot of. There's basically a lot of hands that connect with that board, so it makes it not great to see bet. On the other hand, I expect him to have a pretty wide range, so you know it's not a terrible board to see bet. Like it could be against some people, and I'm gonna have a lot of excuses to continue on turns. Here, I think I'm gonna actually bet. I think I can actually get value here from like tons of whatever. Overcards, perhaps some sort of straight draw. And also, I mean, I think I'm more likely to put in a bet good there on the turn because of the draws than I am to put a bet in good if I like check back and call river. If I had to read that he was like very stabby on the river or something, then I could potentially think that I get a bet in good more often by checking back than I do if I bet myself. But although he seems slightly erratic, he hasn't been super stabby as far as we've seen so far. What did he? Yeah, we didn't see a showdown last time he min 3-bet. We folded on the was it ace king 9 or something. Okay, so we've seen a min donk with middle pair good kicker. So he can have, you know, a decent hand there. He snap goes 2/3 pot. I mean, I think I have to call again. Well, I want to call again because I have the best hand a lot and a draw to go with, and now he barrels. So again, we've seen that he can make that small bet with a good hand, and he continues on later streets as if he has a good hand. I mean, I don't love folding here. I mean, well, I shouldn't give him too much credit for reading my hand. There's a lot of ways I have like bottom pair. Oh, there's a lot of hand. Oh wow, I don't get a time bank automatically. Okay, well, anyway, there's a lot of hands I can have there that call twice and then want to fold river, basically. Very much like the hands I had, you know, like a gut shot with a pair. I think a pretty easy raise of the limp with this hand, and I decided to c-bet on a pretty good board for c-betting, I think. This is not a good board to c-bet. He leads again. So far he's played 100% of hands out of position, right? So against someone like that, you can't just because a board comes kind of bad doesn't mean you like have to give them credit for having something and just give up, because he's playing. Well, so far he is playing 100% of hands out of position and 3-betting almost all of them. So when he flat calls, I mean, presumably people like to 3-bet, you know, some decent hands, right? So if he's playing 100% of hands out of position and 3-betting half of them, and then something like the best half of hands, and his flatting is like the worst half of hands, and he has a pretty wide range for flatting, so he doesn't hit, you know, that many boards. I'm just gonna check raise here rather than you know, try to slow play. Half pot turn, jam river, all the draws miss, so maybe I get called. But he folds. He snap folds rather. So when he snap folds there, like what does he play that way? Does he play like bottom pair that way, or does he play a draw that way? Is he like flat and just like really quickly flat turn? Yeah, so I 4-bet shove there, 50 big blinds deep with an ace. I mean, I kind of hate to take high variance moves, given that I'm playing one buy-in deep, but he's been 3-betting me a lot. So I think it's a pretty clear jam. But that said, I am going to open up a limping range. I check back that flop. That's a board that people like, I feel like, interpret differently, the monotone boards. Like, it's possible that he was checking to give up, to like check fold or whatever. I could 4-bet jam here. I think I'm gonna flat, and try to flop top pair good kicker, but I don't. I mean, I think he's continued to bet every time he's bet so far. Calling there with king high looks a lot better against people who don't barrel that much, basically. His donk flop is 100%, or 50% rather, and his fold versus c-bet is 1 out of 1. He opens 5 big blinds. I guess I'm playing jam or fold versus that 5 big blind open. Kind of wish I'd limped here. It's the kind of hand that doesn't really love to see a 3-bet. Because I can't happily fold. I have a suited queen. Against people who 3-bet so much, like over 50% here. Sort of two approaches you can take. Well, I mean, you should do some of both of these, which is 4-bet a lot more, call a lot more, and maybe min raise in the first place a lot more. Open up a limping range instead. So my 4-bet range there usually starts to be like wide for value, but of hands that don't play as well post flop, if that makes sense. Like I'll usually jam a lot of ace X, or even like sort of middling cards that like play okay all in pre-flop, but don't figure to be. So he limp called here. I just think I have so many more aces in range than he does. The 9 comes. I was gonna jam river. I was gonna jam river to kind of get him off a 9 or a 4. When the 9 pairs, I sort of think this is most likely hand. But no, he just had a 4 and called twice. Okay. Well, I mean, I can't imagine he would have called river. To be honest, his turn call is really bad, in my opinion. A lot of good turns for me. Dude donks a ton, so I can't be always folding. This is not one of those turns, though, so I guess I'll just give up. He's only opening 25%. Thought about jamming there pre-flop, but it's possible his opening range is quite tight. He's raised one of my 4 previous limps. I don't think I can call a jam here. I will call a small raise. That's a small raise. Okay, so I have a decision here, assuming he c-bets. Okay, my decision was either to jam over the c-bet or not, and I think it depends largely on the stack sizes. So I'm gonna bet here, kind of big. Basically, okay, he raises. Well, I'm gonna get it in. Basically, I wanted to set up a good jam on the turn because I would be jamming on the turn if he called, and he checked me. Okay, well my jack's good at least. Nice. Running good. Okay, 12 big blinds deep. I think I need to check here with the 6-5. Dude limps. He's limping a lot of hands. He could certainly have, I guess he could have an ace or jack. Need to call one. It's one of those weird spots where I never have an ace in range. Not sure if he does. Not sure if he can be value betting worse. He probably could have an ace and probably could be value betting worse. He probably is going to bet the river because he's barreled a lot. I mean, I think when I check call this flop, I usually have a jack or a 6. On the turn, I guess I'll fold my 6s and call with my jacks, approximately. I'm gonna min raise here. I could limp. I mean, it plays certainly plays fine post flop. If he raised me pre flop, I'd probably just jam on him. I think I'm gonna check again. I mean, I was just thinking like how stabby. Well, he's been like pretty stabby and barely. So I definitely want to like leave some fairly strong hands in my passive ranges. So checking the turn there, try to get pick off a bluff or whatever. Here, I feel like check raising for value. Like, it's hard for him to have a queen after check back the flop and the queen pairs. I wish I had a better kicker, but I'm gonna value check raise anyway. Yeah, I mean, basically, I just think he has a worse hand a lot, and he seems to like to call, so. Especially after he, takes that sort of weird line. He, like, bet the river, like, a third or quarter pot or something, maybe less. People often talk themselves into calling after that. They think they, like, induced something, which sometimes I did. But so he's raised my limp 40% of the time. Right, like, so nines here, I like to just get it in pre-flop against as wide a range as possible. But I think it plays fine post-flop too. Well, it plays fine post-flop on this board. But I mean, I think a lot of times when he has high cards, like over a 9 for example, he'll just jam pre. And if he has lower than a 9, then I have him in really bad shape. I'm going to check back here. I mean, if he has a 3, I'm going to stack him sort of no matter what. If he has a 6, I'm not sure if I get more out of him if I bet the turn or river. But there's a lot of ways he can like have none of those things and then bluff this river, or pick up something on the river to pay off with. Great. So I think this brings us to the tens. Let me get a new game.